While coronavirus has dominated the news, the election has not stopped, and is interesting as ever, particularly given the influence of coronavirus fears. Hello and welcome to another TLDR US video. With the primary on Saturday in the Northern Mariana Islands, a one-on-one debate between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, and the delay of select primaries and the results of others, a lot has happened in the last week or so. So in this video, we're going to lay out what's happened in the primaries, how the has affected it, and what it means moving forward. Regular viewers might know that we make pin badges featuring our countries with shoes graphics, and at this point we have a whole bunch of countries covered. But we thought that in this time of global crisis, it might be nice to have a design representing global unity, hence the new World with Shoes pin. Check out these new designs and all of the others in the store, it's linked down below. So let's start with the debate. Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders competed in the first one-on-one debate of the campaign on Sunday night. Due to concerns about, you guessed it, coronavirus, the debate was moved from Phoenix, Arizona to a studio in Washington, D.C., and transformed from a town hall debate format to one where both candidates stood several feet apart and with no studio audience. Both Biden and Sanders were quick to attack President Trump and his administration's response to the coronavirus. One of the most stunning moments of the night was Biden's commitment to nominate a woman as his running mate. Sanders didn't echo his pledge, but did say he would very likely choose a woman. It's worth noting here that women have only gained their party's nomination for vice president twice. The first was Geraldine Ferraro, who was the Democratic nominee for vice president in 1984 when Ronald Reagan defeated Walter Mondale in his landslide re-election, and the second was in 2008 when John McCain chose Sarah Palin. This is a move that some believe cost him the election, whether that was because Palin is a woman or because Palin is, well, Palin. The point is, it's unclear whether a woman on the ticket would help Biden, but either way, it's unusual to have a commitment on an issue like this so early. Anyway, after a series of wins over the last few weeks, Joe Biden headed into Tuesday's primaries with little to lose. On Tuesday morning, according to the Real Clear Politics average, he led the polls with 56.4% nationally, a double-digit lead to Sanders' 33.2%. According to the Associated Press going into Tuesday, he also had a delegate lead of 898 to Sanders' 745. And keep in mind, 1,991 are necessary to get the nomination. While Sanders did win the Northern Mariana Island caucuses on Saturday, it did very little to sway the election in his favour, as it was only a 6-delegate contest, of which Sanders won 4. Only 4 states were scheduled to hold their primaries on Tuesday: Arizona, Ohio, Florida, and Illinois. It was announced Monday, however, that Ohio would postpone their primary due to coronavirus concerns, a decision that had been struck down earlier that day in the courts. State officials were able to circumvent the court ruling as the state director of health postponed the primary due to what they called a public health crisis. And while there weren't many states up for grabs, the states that did vote were rich in delegates. Florida has 219, Arizona has 67, Illinois 115, and while Ohio was postponed, it has 136 delegates. So how did Tuesday's primaries turn out? Well, Biden had a clean sweep in all 3 states, making his delegate lead quite substantial. At the time of writing, after Tuesday's primary results, Biden has increased his delegate lead to 1,147 to 861. One particular thing to look at is Biden's margin of victory in those states. In Florida, for example, Biden won the state with over 61% of the vote to Sanders' 22, and in Illinois, Biden secured a 59-36 lead over Sanders. Needless to say, this is not a good piece of news for Sanders. That said, the question becomes, will Sanders suspend his campaign, and if so, when? The senator received a good bit of criticism for not dropping out sooner and not endorsing Hillary Clinton sooner. So it'll be interesting to see whether Sanders suspends his campaign and supports Biden this time round. While most of the eyes have been on the Democratic primary, and with an incumbent Republican president, it's easy to forget that there is a Republican primary going on too. And because of that, another event of note on Tuesday was Donald Trump clinching the Republican nomination. I realise this isn't huge news. However, the president did have 2 challengers: former Massachusetts Governor Bill Weld and former Illinois Congressman Joe Walsh. but neither challenger was able to gain enough momentum to pose a serious challenge to the president. So what does this all mean for the coming days? Well, as I've said before, we're not going to make any predictions, but it's pretty safe to say at this point that Joe Biden will be the Democratic nominee. And as I said, Donald Trump officially gained his party's nomination with his primary wins on Tuesday. So it looks like Trump and Biden will move on to the general election and face off in November. If Biden feels his lead to Sanders is substantial enough, or if Sanders pulls out, we can expect Biden to pivot and begin focusing on the general election. As we pointed out earlier, the coronavirus is wreaking havoc on the election, with 5 states and 1 territory thus far postponing their primaries out of concern for spreading the virus. If the virus pandemic reaches into summer, it could put serious doubt on the availability of the 2 parties to host their national conventions in mid-July as scheduled. Another question that's been raised due to the pandemic is whether the November general election could be postponed. Theoretically, the answer is yes, but it's extremely unlikely for 2 reasons. The first is it's immensely difficult to change the election date, which is set by federal law to be in early November, so it would take an act of Congress signed by the president to change it, not to mention the possibility of a challenge to the law in courts. Second, there'd be little choice of when to move the election. The US Constitution mandates that the Congress must be sworn in on January 3rd, and the 20th Amendment decrees that the inauguration of the President and Vice President must be on January 20th. So as you can see, there's not much to choose from between Election Day in November and the congressional inauguration date. Of course, we'll keep you updated on this and the primaries as they play out. So make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified every time we release a video.